Poland gets the best of Slovenia and gets a win over Luka Dončić. We're going to talk about Luka's performance in that game. And Kristaps Porziņģis shows up big in his game in the EuroBasket as well. And are the Timberwolves trying to get a reunite with Malik Beasley? We're going to talk about all that and more on today's NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night, where it's every game, every night. I am Haize, one of the hosts here. I'm one of the hosts of Locked On Bulls. I'm joined by Swipa, one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets. Today's episode is brought to you guys by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Swipa, how you been feeling about EuroBasket? You been getting to watch a lot of EuroBasket so far?
Yeah, obviously mostly Serbia, because, we have so much of our audience is Serbian. And so we're obviously fixed on what Nikola Jokic and Nikola Jovic are doing right now. Been really good basketball played so far. And obviously, Slovenia with Luka, Greece with Giannis. Also want to give a shout out to Lithuania with Jonas Valanciunas. Looks really, really good. Nikola Vucevic looks really good as well. I actually love what I'm seeing from a lot of NBA players. I'm actually really curious to see. I think it's Jovic, but last year, I think one of the things that helped Josh Giddey to make such a leap in the NBA that he did this year, and especially later in the year, was playing in the Olympics.
Yeah,
he played a really valuable role with Australia, really came close to taking down Serbia as well, and actually when the game mattered the most. And I think Jovic looks like he's primed to take that step. He had 18 points the other day. Luke had 34 points. He looks really good, looks healthy, looks lean. Slovenia is just not super talented. They actually lost to Poland, which was really surprising. But I love the fact that we're getting so many high-level NBA basketball players, arguably the three best players in the world. They're all playing in EuroBasket right now. It's great.
Yeah, and as you talked about Luka and his performance there, amazing performance with his 34 points there as far as what he was able to do. But Poland, it frustrated Luka. You could tell down the stretch, them playing really physical with Luka, it frustrated him a little bit down the stretch of that game. I want to ask you about that and the game plan that they used on Luka, and especially one of the things that Luka has been part of Luka's game is the bruising style with the size and the strength that he had. Are you at all concerned? Do you think Lakers fans should be concerned seeing how Poland was able to use this physical style with that? Maybe dropping that weight is going to make him a little bit more susceptible to that in the NBA game.
No, just because Luka's never, he's never going to be a player that has a lot of defensive value, despite the isolation numbers 2 years ago. The second rotation, third rotation, like the weak side stuff, the rim protecting stuff, he just doesn't do a lot of that. But Luka is going to be what Luka is, which is a high-level scorer, high-level passer, high-level playmaker, good rebounder, especially for a wing. And he's going to provide a lot of offensive upside. And that's what makes him Luka. That's what puts him in conversation where he's a top 3 player in the world, maybe the best guard in the world as well. I think that he's going to have an exceptional season. Just Lakers fans have to know, very the same as Timberwolves fans. You just have to have people around him that are able to contribute at a really high level that will allow for him to do the things that he does best. And then on the other end, cover for the things that he doesn't do well. But that's really any NBA player. That's any player like Giannis or Jokic or SGA. You just have to know your roster. You got to know your team. You got to know your unit. And you got to be willing to do the work to put players around them that really are going to aid them to be the players that we all know that they can be and that they are. So I think Luka's going to have an incredible year, and I'm actually really, really excited to watch him play.
Yeah, I think Luka is going to have a big year. And I think if I remember correctly, they did MVP voting and he was towards the top of that list. And I wouldn't be surprised if Luka finishes top 1 or 2 in MVP voting because, he's going to put up the numbers. The question about it is the level of success that the Lakers are going to have. They still have to figure out that thing between Austin Reeves, LeBron, and Luka on the court together. They barely positive as far as overall net rating with those 3 guys. So how can you find out and strike a better balance between those 3 guys now with having a training camp and things? All those questions are going to be there. But how far, what right now, and I know we haven't gotten to see any of the NBA teams on the court at all. What do you have the ceiling for the Lakers in the 2025-26 season?
Well, I think conference finals is fair. I think the ceiling of it being that they can make a run, they get the right matchups. And I think if somehow the Nuggets, the Rockets, and OKC are kind of able to cannibalize each other. I think that would aid them really well. I still think the Clippers are going to be a really tough battle. I think the Wolves are a really tough battle. I don't know that the margins have decreased that much where they wouldn't get 4-1 again by like the Wolves. I think the Clippers would be a better matchup for them maybe, but Brook Lopez and I think Ivica Zubac would offer a lot of the same issues Rudy Gobert did for them last year. The shooting obviously that the Clippers have. So I think the issue is they're going to have still so many weaknesses on the roster. So it's just a matter of, can they find enough offensive upside to make up for the difference? And can they find enough defense from Ayton and Smart and maybe even LeBron, unless LeBron is, obviously just kind of fades back into what he did last year in the playoff where he just wasn't able to play great defense. But yeah, I think that they can be good. I think they can push a lot of teams, but man, I think they're going to have a lot of issues as well, but they'll still be a 50-plus win team in the regular season, if that makes sense.
Where do you think they're going to rank in the West if you had to pick top 2, top 3? Where do you think they're going to? The Lakers.
In the West, like at the end of the season?
Yeah, in the standing at the end.
Everybody's healthy. I have them at 6. I have OKC, Denver, Houston, Clippers, Wolves, and then Lakers. And I think the Lakers, and I think that the Warriors are going to be contending for that 6th spot. A sneaker team is there. It's the Spurs. What's the solvent for Houston and for OKC why they won 58 or 52 and 68 games last year? They have an extremely high defensive floor. You have an elite defensive anchor, and you have a lot of young players that are willing to play minutes and willing to play hard and commit to a system. That's how you win games in the regular season. And I think the Spurs, they kind of are the next level of that, where they all of a sudden they can be a team that's pushing for the 6th seed, pushing for the 7th seed, and they kind of accelerated their growth a lot, especially with Carter Bryant, Jeremy Sohan, Victor Wembanyama, and then obviously Stephon Castle. They have a really strong defensive core, and they have some shot-making upside. They have some veterans on the roster. So I think that the Lakers are probably going to be anywhere between 5 to 8, but that all depends on what happens with the health with the rest of the Western Conference as well.
Well, yeah, health is always the thing that you can never really bet on in the East or West, because a major injury to any team could completely throw off the balance there. But we'll have conversations on where as we get closer to the season, closer to training camp opening, because I want to talk more and more about the Rockets. I'm buying more and more into it. I know it's not a topic today, but I'm really high on the Rockets coming into the season. But that's just me.
No, I think they can. That's a team that can make the NBA Finals, and there's definitely a pathway for it to get there.
Yeah, just you got to hope that the mix is going to be right and that KD fits in the way that it seems like he's going to fit in on paper. You're going to need players like to step up. Jabari is going to have to step up considerably, I think, this year too. But I like that Rockets team. I love their roster, and I think they're going to be a team that if anybody's doubting their ability, I think they're going to show up pretty early into the season. But to get back on Luka and the Lakers here, I just want to say this piece because I know it's been coming up more recently in regards to LeBron and his role there. And I want to ask a question that was asked to me. What do you think happens first? Does LeBron retire first, or does Bronny James get his first start in the NBA?
Start?
Yeah, start.
Yeah, Bronny could easily start next year.
Easily.
Because
you think he can easily start next year?
Well, it's just a matter of, like I said, it's the regular season. They don't have a lot of depth as it is. Like, so when Luka and Marcus Smart are in the game, then it's going to be what, like Gabe Vincent. The Lakers, they're in a situation right now where Bronny just might have to get more minutes than they want. So it's going to be maybe Jordan Goodwin, like Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, Luka Dončić. That's their rotation right now. Then Shake Milton. There's a very real path where they're going to have to play Bronny James somewhere and start him somewhere in those lineups. Now, that might be a Tuesday game where everybody's sitting out versus the Jazz or versus the Wizards or something like that. But I think there's definitely a path that he can do. So if you're asking me, really the question is, can he start at some point next year? My answer is yes, if he develops enough. And they also have some players that they're resting in certain spots as well.
That's fair. I guess we'll see. The Lakers are going to be a really intriguing team to watch out for next year and to see what they can be next season. But we're going to be talking about Kristaps Porziņģis up next and what that means for the not the Knicks anymore. What that means for the Hawks right after this. First, we got to get into a message from Game Time. Have you ever decided at last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, and even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. If you're tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal, Game Time Zone Deals picks the best seats in your section for you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. More Locked On NBA coming up next. Bad transition, but all right. All right, Swiper. Let's get into the next one, man. EuroBasket's giving us a lot to talk about, especially people who just love watching basketball. Kristaps Porziņģis had himself a game and came up big time late in that game as well. Kristaps finishing with 22 points. He had 7 rebounds in that game, 1 assist. He did have 7 turnovers as well, but just big, important games. He had 10 points, I think, in the first half of the game. Finishes with 22 points. They finished strong. They have a comeback victory. They end up winning 72-70 in their EuroBasket game. That's Latvia versus Estonia. How you feeling?
Look, I think that Kristaps, if he's healthy, is going to remind a lot of people that he is and has been one of the best bigs in the league. You know, prior to him getting to the Celtics, you know, he had, I would say, like a career season, and in that season he was absolutely, you know, one of the best scoring bigs in the league. He was also one of the best interior scorers, like post players in the league. Really good shooter as well. I love the way that he plays. I think his consistency is something that I think a lot of people don't value. You know, he's not like a high-end center, but for me, you know, when he goes to the center position, he's healthy, the top 10 center in the league. I think that he's going to be really good with Trae Young. That kind of playmaking can really aid him a lot. I think that this year is going to be a special season. I think you saw a little bit of that the other night. You know, this is, you know, Latvia, like, they're not like one of the best teams in the world by any means, but they do have some talent. I love the roster. I love the team that they have. They're putting together, I think, a lot of really good, really solid players. And Kristaps, you know, not being able to play consistently has a lot to do with injuries. But, you know, he found a way to really make it hard. Now, Estonia is also not great. They're not a great basketball team. Serbia just demolished them, which I think is the best team in the tournament. But they still have, you know, Davis Bertans for play for Latvia, Porzingis. They got like some good players that are developing, archers as well off the bench. But, you know, they're good, man. And I think Davis Bertans and Kristaps Porziņģis present a lot of issues. Really good game from Kristaps. Like, again, going 8 of 12 from the field, good shot making, especially over the top. I think he looks really good right now. I'm really excited to see what he does for Trae Young this year, Jalen Johnson, and the rest of that roster.
Yeah, because Kristaps like offers that rim protection, that kind of two-way big they need down there, especially with Trae Young and the connection that Trae Young has. Like, I love that over the last few years, Trae Young's shooting efficiency has been up and down each year, especially from 3. But he's gotten more assists. His assist numbers have gone up each of the last, I think, 4 years in a row. And having a guy like Kristaps there is going to make that even easier for him. Jalen Johnson's exciting as well. He's one of the best young players that I'm really excited about in the league as well. Now, what do you think about the Atlanta Hawks saying that they kind of, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, like over this week, it came out that the Hawks are basically waiting to see what Trae looks like with this young and what this core looks like. That's part of the reason they haven't offered him a contract extension yet. We talked a couple weeks ago about Trae Young, you know, feeling a little bit uneasy about not getting that contract extension. Do you think that's the right play by the Atlanta Hawks to see what this mix of players look like first?
I mean, I get it. No, I get it, but no. And I just think Trae is just too important to what they're doing. You know, one of the things about when you have players like that, even if they're flawed, you're just not finding replacements for players that are giving you 24 points, 12 assists like that. And I think his efficiency is going to go up because the team around him is going to be better. I think the 2021 run was, emblematic of like the Sixers falling apart, but I think it was also emblematic of when you give Trae Young a competent team, they just look different. And the team, I think, just has a lot of lot of things they can do that really present issues for the opposition. Zachary Rishache, Jalen Johnson, now having Nickeil Alexander-Walker, having Dyson Daniels. Those are all positive defenders, and that matters for this roster. Having Kristaps Porziņģis, a really good rim protector, especially weak side rim protector, rotator player, that's going to help and aid him a lot. Having Onyeka Okongwu, that's going to aid him. Like Beasley coming off the bench, they have an actual NBA team that can compete for playoff minutes, that has rotations you can play. You can take Trae Young out. Okay, let's make an offense and build it around Jalen Johnson and his passing skill set. A lot of people don't know this, and again, I've said this multiple times. Jalen Johnson passed the 4th most times in the NBA last year. The 4th. He absolutely was throwing the ball all over the court because he's committed to playing within the flow of the offense. And so you find Trae Young an offense where he doesn't have to do everything with Kristaps and with Jalen. And then you see Nickeil Alexander-Walker continue to take leaps as an offensive player, especially as a shooter. There are so many play finishers on this roster. And then what does the next year of Zachary Rishache look like? He came on last year where in my rookie of the year voting, I had him two behind Jalen Wells. Zachary Rishache is a special player that does a lot of really good things. He's so tall, so big, so athletic, and I think that is going to be a real great additive to this season. Man, I'm telling you, like, Hayes, don't sleep. If that team stays together and stay healthy, they could be pushing for as high as the 4th seed in that conference next year, and Kristaps going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, it really depends on how that mix of players, and they've had injury concerns with Atlanta over the last couple of years, but they've added some really good defenders to that team to help kind of overcome the shortcomings of Trae Young, because we know, I mean, he's going to get targeted defensively. I think adding those versatile, like bringing in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, already having Dyson Daniels down there, it's gonna definitely help that. Another guy, like, they drafted Asa Newell. Now, I don't know how much he's going to contribute year one, but I think he's another player that fits into that seamlessly as he develops too, as well, depending on what you can get from him as another two-way player that can play the 4 or the 5. So I think Atlanta, it has that path. Now, I don't necessarily have them above Orlando yet. I do think Orlando's going to be there, but they're going to be right there competing for it. And we've seen Atlanta go on the Eastern Conference Finals run before.
The Bucks. I think we can say that.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're definitely going to be better.
So then it comes down to, like, how much of this is going to come down to you just think Giannis is that good and they can, try to overcome a lot of the disparities and issues they're going to have in a regular season context. And for me, I'm just like, the Hawks are they have a 1 through 10 now. And even if Giannis is going to put out, 35 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 assists, which he will, he's going to have to pull so much weight because now his best offensive option is going to be KPJ, Gary Trent Jr., like at the guard spot. Like, that's just not good enough. And I think that the Hawks are going to be able to beat teams like that. Like, again, I think the Hawks are going to be better than the Bucks. I think that the Hawks could be pushing for the 4th seed. You want to say the Magic and the Knicks and Orlando are just outright better, and then cool. Like, I'm not going to argue with that, but like, I think that speaks to how deep they are. And like I said, if Kristaps Porziņģis is healthy, Hayes, I mean, that's like an 18-9 player shooting 42% from 3, which he did last year. Like, you just don't find that. So that level of efficiency, that kind of rebounding, shot making, shot blocking. I mean, Trae Young is going to easily have the best team he's had. So that for me is why, like, I think I understand waiting on the contract, but I also want to make my star player happy. He's been here through all this nonsense. He's done everything you've asked him to do. He's been, he's matured a lot since he's been there, which is just a part of the development. You got to mature. I just think he's just, that's nothing works without him. So you got to pay him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still the engine. Say what you will about Trae negatively in his shortcomings, but he is still the engine of that offense. There's no doubt about that. You can't really make that case. Now, I mean, maybe you're hoping that somebody else can step up and be that. I don't see that on this roster. I actually see a roster that actually needs what Trae brings offensively to the table. I think that he's probably going to have this. If like you said, if Kristaps is healthy and things work out the way that they look like they're going to work out, I wouldn't be surprised if Trae does have one of his more efficient offensive seasons, because he's going to be able to pick his spots a little bit better. He's going to be able to kind of maybe even focus a little bit more on facilitating than what he ever has before, with all the talent here, and then still have those big scoring explosions that he has and still kill the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, because that's still always one of the best things that happen over the season. So I do think this is going to be a tough Hawks team. How good they're going to be, I just need to see it on the court first, but I mean, looking at the roster, and you laid it all out, this is a very talented roster with defenders, with scorers, with pieces that can really fit together. Coaching is going to be really important and all that. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about the Hawks going on an actual deep playoff run this year for sure.
Yeah, look. I'm not convinced in Cleveland, and that's a show me thing. That's not even just about the playoffs. That's a matchup thing. I want to see them be able to pace high level offenses, put competent defense on the board, and to make it hard for teams to score against them. I don't know if they can do that consistently. Regular season they did for a while. They tailed off because of injuries later in the year. Darius Garland obviously going to be a matchup hunt, similar to Trae Young. But I think that, again, if the Hawks are fully healthy, they're going to be able to give everybody in that conference business because there's not a real juggernaut in the Eastern Conference this year.
That's a fact. That's a fact. We're going to move on from that and talk about a team that's hoping to be able to try to be a juggernaut, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves, as they may have their eyes set to bring Malik Beasley back to that team. But first, we got to get to a message from FanDuel. My transitions are bad today. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it makes every game more exciting. Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, it's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. More game night coming up next. All right, Swiper, before we get up out of here today, last topic of the day. Malik Beasley has had a week, man. It initially started off with him being kind of no longer being the target of the investigation. Then a couple of days later, it came out that he's still a person of interest. He's just no longer kind of the target there. So, naturally he's led, like, will a team go ahead and sign him? Do they feel comfortable? Are they going to wait this process out? Well, it seems like one of the teams that could be interested in bringing Malik Beasley back is a former team of his, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I'm going to throw it over to you, man. The Timberwolves are a team that's still looking to make noise in the Western Conference, especially with having Ant still in his prime and the season that he had last year. To you, does Malik Beasley make sense for the Minnesota Timberwolves right now?
Yeah, more shooting, more shooting around an already really good shooting team last year, more shooting around a top 5 offense from January to April, more shooting and versatility from a team that already has a good amount. And I think them adding that would be a real bonus to what they can do in the playoffs. One of the things you want to be able to do if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves is when teams are loading up against Anthony Edwards, can you put enough around him to where it is making it very difficult for teams to play that kind of box in one zone versus him, or to have 4 people with a foot in a paint and they're drawing off of shooters, or they're playing like a style where you're just kind of overloading your defense left and you're just hoping to rotate backside to whoever the shooter is or the worst shooter on the floor. So I do think that, like, adding Malik is important there because their bench, they're going to have Dante DiVincenzo. They're going to have, Julius Randle playing the 4 again, who, I think had like maybe the second best season of his career, at least when he came back from injury. And then having now next year Terrence Shannon Jr. I think Jalen Clark is a really good basketball player. Obviously, Rudy Gobert still being there. And then you get another development year from Anthony Edwards. They should be like even better in some ways than last year. Now, I think losing Nikhil hurts a lot. He won them some games last year and had some really good playoff moments for them the last 3 years. But I do think them being able to get Malik Beasley back, getting another body and another starter level player, that was their thing last year. They had 8 players that all had arguments to be a starter for some team here in the NBA. And Malik is such a dynamic shooter and a floor spacer. He's a really good athlete. And so that's somebody that you want to put on the floor, and it just changes the way teams are guarding you. So obviously, if you can afford him, if you can sign him, you do it. But, we'll see. Honestly, if Malik is clear of all this and he actually didn't have anything to do with any of the gambling stuff, any of the probing stuff, not to say the NBA owes him $40 million, but that's tough given how much money he was finally getting his first major payday of his career.
Yeah, it really sucks that, like, he was about to get that, and now that money just is not out there for him. But the benefit is that, he signs with the team this year. If he has a strong season, that money's going to be there again for him. But, Malik is definitely a player that can help a team. And I do hope that he's able to get back on that court. I do hope whatever needs to be cleared is cleared so he can get back and playing basketball, because a player that had a season, and he finished, if I'm not mistaken, was it second in Sixth Man of the Year voting?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Second Sixth Man of the Year voting, like, to then not be able to use that to sign a huge deal, and not to be able to use that to catapult into a even bigger season the next year. It sucks that it had to get turned and focused on something else. But hopefully he's able to get back on the basketball court, silence any all doubters, and just focus back on basketball, which I'm sure he's going to want to do. But the Pistons, I think, are probably still the most likely team to bring him back. I know they can't offer him the same deal, the $14 million that they was going to offer before. I think they're maxed out now at 7.3. But I think with them having his bird rights, it still kind of makes the most sense for him to go back to Detroit. But I wouldn't be mad to see him go to the Wolves at all either.
Yeah, the Wolves, Detroit, any team that has any cap space that needs like another shooter, a bona fide shooter on the roster, that's somebody I would call. Again, this is all obviously the standing that he has to get cleared of everything that he's being accused of right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Swiper, anything left, man, before we get up out of here?
No, but EuroBasket, y'all, if you're not watching EuroBasket, you can actually just go to courtside 1891, y'all. They have ways that you can watch all these games, like paid subscription just for the tournament. This has been really, really good international basketball. And like I said, because so many of the best players in the NBA are playing in Europe and are from Europe, this has just been, it's the best basketball you're going to find, like non-NBA for the most part. So tap in if you can. Great basketball to watch. Luka, Giannis, Jokic, and then you're getting like a lot of players like Kristaps Porziņģis, Vucevic. You're getting Jonas Valanciunas. Rudy Gobert. There's just so many. So tap in if you can.
Absolutely. EuroBasket is such good, especially with us still being about exactly a month away from NBA training camps opening. EuroBasket is some really good quality basketball. You get to see some of the faces that and maybe some of the faces that you'll see in the draft in the next couple of years. So make sure you guys go and tune in to EuroBasket. It's fun to watch, but that's it for us for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Locked On NBA is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, Fubo TV, and more. So basically anywhere you want to check out Locked On NBA, we're there. We'll catch you guys next Friday, man. Peace, y'all.